Hi, everyone, and welcome to the podcast Talk with Legal Mind by Mirzuva. I'm Sima, your today's host, and I'm excited to introduce you my guest, Tatiana Novikova. Tatiana, I'm really happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you very much for asking me to come here today. We're going to discuss a very interesting topic for me as well. I'm a chief legal counsel of educational company working in the IT sphere for a long period of time. And I'm really proud to name myself as a product legal counsel because I think that is like a most efficient people that help business a lot. I have a very big experience in international sphere. And now I'm working both for European and American market.
Yeah, thanks for coming here. And today we are going to dive in a very interesting topic, hot topic, AI governance and how to approach it in the company. So, yep, let's dive in.
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic for me because it's very questionary. Because as I see on the market, there's a lot of people who name themselves as AI professionals. When I have a lot of discussions with different professionals in the field, legal counsels, privacy experts, and the security guys, and there are different understanding of what actually AI governance means. And let's find out what we both of us are thinking about it. So from my perspective, AI governance includes different spheres. So how your team uses AI actually. So it's more like from the deployer's perspective. And also if you develop AI system, how you actually do it, with which AI tools do you use, how your company sees it, what security measure internally in your company do you have, what privacy policy are implemented, and how you regulate the privacy personal data that you use in your AI systems that you're going to build, the risk management systems that you use, and whether you use it or not, and what you need to choose on the market in order to implement it to secure your AI system. And it's also very important to understand if you sell to B2C, how you would like to protect your users. It's also part of compliance as well, and part of ethics as well, because it's one part is how do you see your product from the ethical perspective, from the bias perspective as well. So it's actually a complex mechanism that you need to implement inside your company. But I think it's better to make a step back and to understand what actually do you have right now in the company, and how it's better to approach it is just to interview people in your company at the beginning.
It seems you know what you're talking about. It's not theoretical one.
Yes, it's not. Obviously, it's not.
Yeah, so I think it's really important to mention that Tatiana and her team, their startup, they build and they work and integrate AI systems in their product. And moreover, they're building their separate products with AI integrations, which may fall within AI systems, definition of AI systems in Europe. So it's really important. And I think it's really not worrying, but very intriguing topic, because you're enforcing it as a head of legal, and you need to to understand whether it is covered within the team, whether everybody understands what their roles regarding AI governance, and also to explain your stakeholders why we need AI governance. Business owners, right? They need to understand what are risks generated, why we need to implement it AI governance, because for them it is just beautiful word, which doesn't mean anything unless it generates risks or it brings some benefit for the company. So from practical perspective, what main risks do you see, and how you explain your business owners why you need to have AI governance?
We're selling B2C, I would just to say. Mostly we're selling B2C now, but also selling B2B, but the end user is also individual. So my perspective, the main risk that I see, we use different AI models, but then we develop this AI model into our own AI system. And we need to control if this AI are trained on the data set that are not biased, for example. It's very important. That's from ethical perspective are also correct. And based on our values, because different companies has different values. And in order to sell good products, we need to think about it, what we actually include in the word good product. It's not only about the product perspective, it's also about the ethical perspective. It's also about recommendations that AI system will provide to our end users. And human oversight is also very important, because AI develops and develops every day. It's learning based on data set, as I said before. And that's why we need to control how it develops. And okay, again, not to make harm to our end users. It's very important for me from the product developer perspective as well, and from the legal perspective. But I would like to look and pay attention to this not only from the legal perspective, but also from the end user perspective. So the alternative goal is to protect the end user from any mistakes that AI can make.
Yeah, so basically you're talking about that like AI governance, it covers and it may trigger other risks, including privacy related, what data you use. So you're really conscious on how your end user's data is processed in the company. And it's really interconnected with AI governance, because AI systems are engaged in all this activity. When business acknowledge that there are local regulation which may trigger some penalties if you're not compliant with it. For example, in Europe, it will be EU AI Act, which covers a set of obligations for different types of AI systems, and mostly regulated AI systems, it is high-risk AI systems. So basically, and these penalties, they may later trigger reputational risks also.
Of course.
So you mentioned bias, right? So basically, for example, if you were using some AI tools in your product, whether it is education related product or HR related system, you can be you can face that your use of some AI systems can trigger EU AI Act, and you need to be compliant with high risk AI set of obligations. So it means that the company need to execute assessment whether this regulation applies to you in general.
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic, because as I said, you need to pay attention to the data sets that you use. And if you, for example, develop a global product, you need also to pay attention. For example, bias in US, it's not the same as bias in European Union. So when you create a global product, so you need to pay attention to both regulations. And the question is, which data sets you need to use? Do you need just to control what data set you use and somehow mix it? So it's a very questionable thing right now, how you need to adjust your data sets if you sell your product globally. Should you restrict usage of your product in several jurisdictions because you use, for example, use US data sets, but then you need to restrict this AI system to be used in European market? Or not, or vice versa. Or, for example, I know that now in LATAM regions, there are, in some countries, AI regulation is also developing. So there are a lot of questions if you develop a global AI system, a global product. For example, for us, it's also a good question, and that we notice our development team that you need to think about it as well. And they were very surprised, because, to be honest, they didn't pay attention to this fact. And it actually leads out to another topic, that AI governance, you should speak with your product team about the AI governance team and all the measures you need to implement at the beginning of the development of a system.
Yes.
It's very important, because if you come to this project at the end, then it's very difficult to adjust it. It will, of course, you can always adjust it, but it will cost you a lot to adjust it from the resources and from the money perspective.
Yeah. You mentioned regarding global products, and it seems like most of the online services, they're really aimed for global end user, of course, with some exceptions. And like from my perspective, when you have a global product, it really requires double efforts, because you need to monitor and understand what primary locations will be targeted. And afterwards, you're monitoring other locations, which can be also exposed, or what end users from the locations can come. So basically, it really requires very smart approach how to make this research effective and how to implement guidelines and policies that work for all markets. And for example, if you need to divide streamlines or even divide a product, you shall have a very good analysis why it shall be done, whether there are benefits to do so, because it really requires a lot of organizational and corporate measures to be integrated, and there are so many people in corporation are engaged that it shall be very step by step, it shall be analyzed.
Yeah, of course. And it's very difficult to decide at the beginning to what regions are you going to sell, because it's always like lawyers come to product teams and say, oh, please trigger us which regions, like 5 regions or 10 regions we're going to sell. But I understand from the sales perspective, it's also very difficult because yeah, it's a good scenario when you first make all the sales tests and then you understand to figure out what markets you're going to sell, and afterwards you develop a product. But in our reality, it doesn't work like this because AI tools are developing and developing each day. You need to speed up and understand the product teams that you need to speed up. That's why I think you should need to take a proactive approach and just to make analysis of several jurisdictions, the primary jurisdictions that AI is regulated right now. Because to be honest, not in all countries AI regulation is highly developed. So, and in the US, for example, there are different initiatives. So I think in 5 states, there are some AI regulation in place, mostly in the recruitment sphere, in employment sphere regarding bias and this stuff. But it's going to be developed. But AI regulation, as I said, it's not only about legal, it's also about political initiative, et cetera, we also need to take it into account. But I think it's wise to pay attention not only to the AI regulation, but the exact standards that you have in place right now. And maybe we can talk more about ISO certification that...
Yeah. Let's talk about global standards for AI governance.
Yeah.
And for example, what's your opinion on it? So for example, we know that there are NIST standards. Also, we have ISO standards for AI system, 42001, 42005, and etc. So, do you think that these standards help to build AI governance?
Yeah, I think it's a good approach to start with the standards, because in the standards it's written down quite obvious what risk management system you need to implement.
Yes.
And that's why it's good start, I guess, and good tip for the developers of the AI system, and actually for your ML development department or security team department, because it's written mostly for the technical stuff in order to implement step by step what you actually need to implement. As I said, current AI regulation is very vague for the developer or team to understand it. That's why maybe as a first approach, because you still need to be in compliance, because in all regulations it's written down that you need to be sure before you put the product into market that it's in compliance with regulation. So it's safe for the end users. So how you can actually understand that it's safe for the end users? You need to have some controls in place where you actually need to take those controls. So it's better to use the current controls, the world standards that we have right now.
I have a opinion on it also because, for example, I would recommend go for ISO certification standards. It really depends on what type of AI systems you fall in. So for example, if your service is high-risk AI system, I think that go for ISO standard, for example, 42001 is good because it really gives you some first step understanding what systems you need to build in the product. But of course, we understand that just having this ISO standards, it doesn't make you compliant with EU AI Act, for example, right? But it's a really good starting point. And also from marketing perspective, it's easier to sell these products because many huge, for example, B2B clients, they may enforce something like, we won't buy your product unless you have some certifications. So for business, it also can be very beneficial to have some ISO certification. It really gives some benefits to business, even in marketing purposes to sell it. Yeah, but for example, if it's business which is not qualified like a high-risk AI system. For example, you're just using some Gen AI, deploying some Gen AI, I don't know, tools in your product, maybe there is no need for you to go for this certification. So it really depends on assessment, what set of rules, what system you have, what regulation applied to you, and then you make such decision whether you need to go for the certification or not.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's very important to understand the maturity of your business. For example, I see that some companies right now, they at the beginning would like to create a high-risk systems based on regulation. But at the end, they started, okay, let's rebuild our system and make it not a high-risk AI system. Of course, it will be less attractive, for example, for the customers. But the customers right now are also a little bit concerned using high-risk AI system because, as we know, deployers are also need to stick to several requirements, and right now it's a little bit messy. They also don't understand the risk if they are not in compliance with these requirements. What are the risks are for them? That's why they are really careful of using high risk system as well.
Yeah, I agree because, for example, I think very popular case using some AI tools for HR recruitment, because as we see, it's pretty like a hell, and for one job there can be hundreds of applications, and it's practically impossible to scan, monitor, and to look into all. And a lot of companies try to automate some functions, but they're very cautious. And the bigger the company, the more cautious they are in using such tools. That's why it seems like even some providers on the market, they try to ease the product in order to make it more popular. So this product would be able to go through all checkups within the corporation.
Yeah, yeah. And it's an interesting topic. I don't know, it's like a side topic that I would like to discuss with Sima just to hear her opinion about it. So what do you think actually about the awareness of AI tools and how you can push your team to use the AI tool, even the AI tool that you are developing in your company? Because as I see in legal profession, for example, I see a lot of pushbacks in using AI tools. And vice versa in advertising or product development teams. They use a lot of AI tools. So there is no balance in the company. And what is your perspective? How actually to balance it? Because I think the best solution is to balance it, because if you use a lot of AI tools, it can be dangerous for your company. Like there are a lot of risk or leak of privacy and misuse of these tools.
Yeah. Regarding awareness, I think that it's really important to make a good introduction on what's your scope and what you're going to do. Secondly, I think it's really important to have in place trainings, like to tell why AI governance is important, what we are doing, what risks we have, so at least general information, so people just understand that there's awareness about it, right? And so people knew to whom to come if they don't know what to do, because very often, like, corporations can be big, people just shall know to whom they can at least address some questions. This is about awareness. And regarding balancing checkups, I think it's really hard to balance when you don't know what tools company using. So basically you're making like a due diligence what tools you're using, and afterwards creating some checklist. Why, like what, for example, and zoning it like red, green, yellow, and some criteria where we're zoning it, and saying, for example, we cannot use such tools, for example, which may I don't know, create bias or expose us to violation of some, I don't know, labor laws or something like that. So when you have such accurate checklists, understanding and categorization, what tools you may use and you may not use, then you understand how to create general rules. So basically, if the team's already using these tools, make an assessment of these tools, and afterwards create rules. So
yeah, I think yes,
I see you like my approach.
Yeah, I like her approach. Yes, and I also would like to provide a tip. So, for example, of course, you need to have a register of the AI tool. And it's an obvious tip, but still some company doesn't have it. And because employees are afraid that legal, for example, or any departments that are in charge in the company or the AI governments, they will restrict to use some of the tools. That's why some employees try to hide it. I don't recommend to do this. And please make a good connections with your employees and ask them what AI tools they use and try to adjust to help them to find better solution, to explain, for example, if you see that it's obvious that using this AI tool will be harmful for your company, please explain it in a lot of examples, what it can happen, what it can lead to if they stick to this AI tool, and provide a better recommendation. Please don't restrict and deny the tools. Just to provide the alternatives to your team, because your team will always need to use AI. It's more productive for the business. It's obvious for everyone. Yes, and if you make this list of AI tool, please also pay attention that you need to understand when your team is deploying this AI tool and when your team stops to deploy this AI tool, because it's also you should be aware which AI tools you are currently using and which are not.
Also, I think you need to have champions.
Yeah, it's
in your
good.
teams. So there are some people who are more proactive and really like to be a champion. So when you have champions who report or collaborate with you, it's really good. And I think we need to endorse such champions with, I don't know, bonuses, cups, some
souvenirs. It's
souvenirs.
Great.
Yeah, because it really helps to have a good dynamic, collaborative dynamic. So I would say you didn't come to like a police officer, right? You're playing the same game, and you need to be on the same team, right? But I think you mentioned also that sometimes a legal function can be taken as like a police officer. It's better to hide, not to tell anything, whatever. But yeah, so we need to be on the same team, to have champions, and also raise awareness through trainings, through policies. If I want to deploy some AI tool, what I shall do step by step. It shall be very easy. Like if, for example, you need to give it to, I don't know, to a child. So you need to really be very transparent and to explain it very easily what the approach in the company. Yeah.
Yes.
And you need to be creative.
Yeah. It's a very good approach. It's funny to say that, but still, like advertisement law works. You need to explain a person like that how the advertisement works and what you actually advertise. And so you should explain to your product manager, imagine that he or she is a child, what this person needs to do, because product manager or developers, they work in different spheres. They speak actually different professional language. That's why the main idea is to build trust and explain that you actually help this team to develop, to sell, to actually provide benefits for the company. Because right now, if you do not use AI tools or you restrict AI tools, it's not possible your company to scale, to develop your product. It's the main thought that you need to take into account.
I have a question also for you. We earlier discussed with you about AI officer role in the company, that there shall be some leader. It can be a person with some legal background, security, development. So basically, it's a person who has amazing soft skills in order to lead AI governance. Do you think such person should be internal in the teams, or it can be outsourced? Because, as you know, there are a lot of law firms which offer services outsourcing, consulting. Like, what's your experience on it?
Yeah, I have a lot of experience with external consultants. It's good when you don't have internal resources to actually have a position internally, but I think it's very important to have an internal person that knows the product. Because as I said at the beginning, as a person that should implement this AI governance, so the idea is you can develop AI governance in a team, but then it should be a person who actually navigate all the team and go to other team to implement this AI governance that you develop within the team.
Yes.
That's why it should be for sure an internal person who knows the product, who totally understand how this product works, Because yes, if you need to implement some controls, you need to understand where exactly you need to put it in place based on regulation
Yes.
and based on what is useful and what beneficiary for the product as well. Because some initiatives, for example, legal would like to implement some initiative, and it's very important to discuss this initiative, because you can make this initiative very harsh, and it will take product team a lot of resources and actually a lot of money to implement this. But you can also discuss it with the product team and make a solution. So, okay, we will not implement it right away, but we will implement it in a month, and we will implement it partially. And it will be easier for the product team not to stop and provide all the resources to just implementation of legal regulations, but to do it in parallel with development of the product, not to spend time on this. Of course, product team doesn't like to spend time on some legal regulations.
Yes.
Well, the main idea is to develop the product and start selling it.
Yeah, I agree with you that it should be internal person, but I also like combination of engaging external counsels for some, I don't know, like quarter or once a year review of what we have. Because I think second opinion always is a good to have, and it matters, and you always can make something better than you did. So if you created some system, guidelines, policies into your team, at least to have budget in the company for once a year or once in 6 months to make such just overview what you have and what can be implemented and what can be done better. So I think it's really good also from a management perspective. It's good to have budget for it.
Yes. It's like in German have this approach. So it's like you need to look at the same, I don't know, agreement product with 4 eyes. Because sometimes, yes, you need to ask someone external just to have an opinion on your product. Because if you're like internal lawyer and you're helping your product team, it's good to see outside how it works. Yeah, I think it's a very good approach. Yeah.
Great. So I think we did a good job in this podcast and discuss very important topics. Of course, we cannot go deeper because it's completely different format for this discussion, but it's at least we're talked about AI governance, the main struggles, what we see on the market. So thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, I hope we can provide you some practical tips. Yeah, I think it is a good discussion, and yeah, we can do it regularly.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, Tatiana.
Thank you.